Alright, so welcome back to part 2 of how to play Animix. So I was just about to set up for this part of the game. I'm going to set up for a gameplay video, but before we play the game, we'll show you some more stuff of how to play this game. But to better explain the rest of how you play this game, we should at least set it up. So, when you play Animix, depending on the amount of players will depend on how many rows and columns you have. If you're playing with, for instance, 3 players, which I'm playing with Ridley and Manta, you're going to need 5 columns and you're going to need 4 rows. So let's do the rows. Let's do it by row. It's easiest for me anyway. So there's our first row. Second row. Third row, and it's going to be tight, so let's put the 4th row at the top to save some space. I'll have to move Manta and Ridley in a moment out of the way. There we go. So there's our 4 rows. You can see most of it. Move Manta out of the way, and Ridley's actually not that close, actually. Okay, so that's how you set up, basically. You're going to set up depending on how many players are playing with rows and columns. So for 3 players, like I said, it's 5 columns and 4 rows. A grid like that. Then each player is going to get 6 more cards. So I'm just going to divvy out now. So these are my cards. 3, 4, 5, and 6. These are Ridley's. 3, 4, 5, and 6 for him. And Manta's are 3, 4, 5, and 6 for him as well. So each of us gets 6 cards, and then there's usually still some cards remaining. So these extra cards just get put back in the box. We don't know what animals these are. We know they're one of the 4. For sure. It could be 2 different species, but we don't know, and that's the important thing. There'll always be less of each animal. Normally, there's 10 animals altogether of each animal in the game, with some of them being in our hands, and some of them actually being in this grid, but then there's always at least 2 that are taken out. So with 40 cards altogether here, 2 of them will not be used in the game. So, now let's go ahead and flip over these to see what the grid's going to look like. So we have lions over there, and chameleon there, and penguin there, lion, wolves, lion, chameleon, another chameleon, another lion, another chameleon. I was really hoping it would be more lions, or should I say I was really hoping that the lions would be the ones taken out of the game. Because they're, those 2 cards that we don't know what they are. Would have been nice to know for sure. It would have been nice if we could choose them, because I would definitely want it to be lions. And there's a reason why I say that. And I'll explain why shortly. Let me just get the rest of these out. Okay, and that's what we've got. Okay, so here's the 4 animals in the game. Now the way the lions score is they automatically give you 11 points at the end of the game. You're probably thinking, wow, that's a lot of points right off the bat at the end of the game. We should all go for the lions. Well, that would be a good idea And taking off the lions off of the out of the grid is actually your best option because it's -1 for every lion that is in the grid. So, for instance, there are currently 6 lions in here. So it's actually 11 minus 6. So that's actually 5 points. So at the end of the game, if there's still 6 lions in the grid, you're going to get 5 points for the lions. That's basically how that's going to work. Obviously, you're going to want to try to get rid of more lions if you're going to try to score with the lions. Usually, only one player will score with an animal. So, like, for instance, we have 6 cards in our hands. We're going to do 2 actions. One of 2 actions. One of the actions will be to take one of these cards, which we'll obviously look at some point, and choose one to put in front of us into a personal supply. Or it'll be just basically our card, and it will go face down. The other players will not know what we put face down. That's one of the things you can do as an action. 6 cards are going to end up in this pile at the end of the game. So the first action is, one of the 2 first actions is this one where you can just put one from your hand and put it face down in front of you. That's one of the actions, of course. And that's one way you'll get the 6 cards in this extra pile. The other one will be to take one of these cards out of the grid and then put it face down in front of you. But then replace that same card that you took out with an animal from your hand, and then after you do that, you're going to put a mountain token on the animal as well. And the animal's going to be face up, so everyone's going to see the card that you took and put face down, and everyone's going to see the cards you replaced it with. But then they're going to see the mountain token and realize that there's nothing they can do about it, because when a card is taken from the grid and then replaced, it can't be moved again. So if this one was taken, for instance, this line here was taken and replaced, then you would put this token on top of the other animal. Maybe it was a lion, who knows? But the other animal, and then no players, including yourself, could take that card out of the grid. So that's basically how it's going to work. Then the player who has the most lions in their hands or should I say, in their personal little face-down pile, will get the points for the lions if they have the most lions. If there's a tie, so if there's 2 players or 3 players, then they split the points. So let's say there was 2 players that tied, and you were able to get 10 points with the lions because there was only 1 lion still in the grid. You would split that between each other, and each player would get 5 points. So that's basically how it's going to work. You're not going to each get 10 points, you're just going to split whatever points that were scored for that particular animal. So basically you understand how the lions are going to score. Now, the wolves are going to score you some good amount of points too. They're going to score you 2 points for each wolf that is on the outside of the center. So basically, these cards are the border. So this row here, or should I say this column here, this row, that row, and this column, wolves on the outside are going to score you 2 points for each one of them. So right now, wolves are going to give you 2, 4, or should I say 4, and 6. You're not going to get any points for this one because it's not on the border. So you can obviously score a lot more points if you get more wolves in this grid on the outside. Obviously, on the border. So that's how you're going to score points with the wolves. The chameleons can only score so many points, though. The chameleons are going to give you 2 points for every different species that are adjacent to it, including another chameleon. So, for instance, this chameleon is actually worth 2, 4, 6, 8 points. So it will never be worth more than 8 points, but as long as it's adjacent to different species, including another chameleon, it's going to score you points. So, same thing with this chameleon over here. It's going to score you the same amount of points. And you're only going to score for one of the chameleons, obviously. So, for instance, this isn't the largest one here, but this one would score you 2, 4, and 6. And so, therefore, it's not the largest group for the chameleons, for the point for the chameleons. So that's how that's going to work. Now, the penguins right now aren't going to score you many points at all, because the pelicans are the exact opposite of the penguins. They scored you 2 points for every diagonal pelican that was adjacent but diagonal from another pelican. They would score you 2 points each. But for the penguins, it's up, down, left, and right for penguins. So, for instance, this one would only give you 2 points because it's not in a group of penguins and it's not surrounded up, down, left, or right from penguins. This one here would score you 2 points because it's, or should I say 4 points, because there's one below it or one above it, however you look at it. So you're going to want to obviously get more groups of penguins that are adjacent to the penguins to score more points on penguins. So that's basically how all of the animals work. And in the next video, we'll actually play the game. And this shouldn't take very long, because each player is only going to play 6 cards anyways. And it's, pretty simple little game. So we'll see you guys in the next video.